Spider-Man is my favorite comic superhero, and I try to pick up every figure of him released. But some are better than others, and these are the top 10 Spideys of 2023. Hey y'all, and welcome back to Carbon Scoring, the best place for comics history and action figures. Time for our annual list of the best versions of our beloved web slinger produced in plastic this past year. The retro cardback Amazing Fantasy 15 figure is one of my all-time favorite versions of the web spinner. I love the fact that this teenage Spidey is on a slightly smaller body, but that doesn't limit his super crunchy articulation in the least. And you know I'm a sucker for this gorgeous package design. Just a couple of things keep this at the bottom of the list. First, it's just a simple repaint of the 60th anniversary Amazing Fantasy 15 figure. But that paint change is significant. The spider on the back of the costume is now blue, just as it was colored in that origin issue. But instead of giving it a more accurate spider logo like on the 4-inch figure, they just painted the red logo blue. Long before there were adult collectors, there were just toys. Figures that you could stick in your pocket and pull out at recess. Spidey has had a ton of these, from the appropriately named Pocket Superheroes by Mego in the 1970s to Mattel's Superhero Secret Wars Spidey of the 1980s. Even Toy Biz's 5-inch figures from the 90s fit this bill, and most recently, the Legends 3.75 series carried on the tradition. I carry my little Spidey with me everywhere. Here he is hanging out at Stonehenge this summer, and then getting kinda sloshed in Dublin. For 2023, Hasbro introduced the Epic Hero series, 4-inch figures with modern sculpting and articulation. Of course, a classic red and blue Spidey was one of the first figures released, and I was pretty impressed with the amount of posing possible from such a small figure. Ball shoulders get good range, and the hidden ball elbow provides a ton of bend without sacrificing the look of the sculpt. Same thing at the hips, with this unique joint, and again, that sneaky knee. But because of the small size and the mom-friendly price point, the web lines are sculpted in, but don't have a paint wash to bring them out. That's why this isn't the version on this list. This is the Black Suit Spidey. Now this is a slick action figure. Perfect proportions and a tight paint app on that fantastic spider logo. This figure is so good and brings back all those warm fuzzy memories of the original Black Suit Spidey figure from 1984's Secret Wars line. While Spider-Man No Way Home was released a full 2 years ago, it can take a while to bring action figures to market, especially when no one wanted to spoil the multiverse surprise of seeing our 3 live-action Spideys in action together. First up is everybody's favorite youth pastor, Tobey Maguire. Hasbro just released their maskless Tobey figure in the past few weeks. It's the same body as the one from the No Way Home 3-pack earlier in the year, and it makes for a great figure with super bright colors and really nice paint applications. I'm particularly impressed with the back spider logo. Not only is it super screen accurate, but Hasbro went the extra mile with sculpting and paint so that it looks good even in an extreme crouching position. The head sculpt we have all been waiting for pretty much works, and while face printing technology has come a long way, mine still has a bit of a Walking Dead vibe to it. Japanese figure maker Bandai released this friendly neighborhood Spider-Man figure in their SH Figuarts line. Super articulated, this figure has an impressive range of motion with joints that are much easier to move around than their Hasbro counterparts, but they're still firm enough to hold their poses without losing their shape. The incredibly tight paint details, without a single smudge anywhere, bring out the raised web lines of the sculpt. The proportions are spot on, heroic, but not overdone, like there really could be a guy behind the suit. And as you would expect from a figure at this price, you get a ton of accessories, including 6 sets of hands and 2 maskless face sculpts. A nice stoic one, and this one that's sorta creepy. Oh, and hey, I just noticed this. He has an articulated butt. Speaking of Spidey movies, you might have heard of a tiny little film named Across the Spider-Verse, which provided us with some of the coolest action figures of the year. None more so than the star himself, Miles Morales, Spider-Man. Figuarts brought the heat again with their version of Miles. Just like we saw with Tobey, the articulation is on point, But thanks to the exaggerated animated stylings of this figure, it feels even more spidery, for lack of a better word. Seriously, I could sit and fiddle with this thing for hours. While it seems like a mostly black costume, there's actually a bunch going on with this figure, with the tech parts contrasting against the smoother parts of the suit. And those red racing stripes are not only well done, they give Miles a unique look amongst all the other Spideys out there. Personally, I really love the giant bug eyes, but you can switch them out for a slightly smaller pair. And again, we get multiple maskless portraits of Miles, a straightforward version, and a how you doing look. We'll be coming back to the Spider-Verse later in the countdown, but Miles here gives us a strong start. The first of two Ben Reilly figures is next on the list, and I love this figure as much as I hate what Marvel has done to this character. For those unfamiliar, Ben Reilly is the Spider clone created by the Jackal all the way back in Amazing Spider-Man 149. Long thought dead, he reappeared in the 90s and briefly took over as the one true Spider-Man. Until he was stabbed in the back and killed by Norman Osborn. He was resurrected in the Clone Conspiracy storyline of 2016, but as an unstable version who adopts the Jackal identity. Eventually cured, he takes up the mantle for an injured Peter and serves as Spider-Man while working for the Beyond Corporation. That is the shortest version of that story I can tell, and while Ben ends up getting screwed by Beyond, they did make him an awesome costume. Designed by artists Patrick Gleason and Art Adams, the suit is a nod to Spidey's history, as the black and red color scheme calls back to Ditko's original design. The huge spider logos on the chest and on the back are reminiscent of Ben's original Spidey suit, and I really like the fact that the front logo is off-center. It adds some life to the costume, and also speaks to Ben's underlying mental state. This is by far my favorite use of the Renew Your Vows base body. I think the slightly enlarged head helps to balance out some of the proportion issues I've had with this figure, plus those giant eyes with the off-white pearlescent paint are so good. Don't worry, Ben Reilly fans. We'll see him again before this countdown is over. Halfway home, how am I doing? Let me know in the comments, and be sure to give this video a like and share it with all the other webheads out there. And subscribe to Carbon Scoring, because we're bringing you great stuff like this every week. Peter number 3 comes up next in our countdown, and once again, SH Figuarts is producing top-notch action figures. The thing that stands out most about this fig is the phenomenal metallic paint seen on the red parts of the costume. Unlike the flat paints we have seen on previous figures, this metallic look really pops. Again, articulation and play value here are top notch, but perhaps because of likeness issues, this one doesn't come with a maskless head sculpt. And for that reason, I've got to go with the Marvel Legends version of Andrew as the best one of the year. Andrew was the highlight of the first No Way Home 3-pack, and that figure is only enhanced with the addition of the new facial sculpt. Garfield has what can only be described as voluminous hair, and the sculptors at Hasbro didn't hold back in bringing his luxurious locks to life in plastic form. The new face print on this one is pretty fantastic as well, with much more life and personality in his expression. This is one mass-produced figure that can not only compete with, but exceed the pricey imports. While we have seen Ben Reilly as Spider-Man, he is truly best known as the Scarlet Spider. Representing the 1990s personified, Andy Samberg took the stereotype to the max with his portrayal in Across the Spider-Verse, making Ben seem like a living, breathing, angsty grunge song. It was a little too one note for me, so thankfully MAFEX brought us the most perfect Scarlet Spider figure to date. MAFEX has been using this same body for their other Spidey figures, and I think it's one of the best base Spidey frames out there. Strong and muscular, yet thin and agile. The smoothness of the articulation even outpaces the Figuarts figures from earlier in the list. But what separates this figure are the extras. This soft goods hoodie fits perfectly and doesn't bunch up when you crunch the figure. And the effort that went into putting a wire in the hood for additional posability is greatly appreciated. Personally, I prefer the Mark Bagley style eyes on this figure, but if you like the more angular Across the Spider-Verse 90s style, they have you covered as well. My man Ben Reilly has been done wrong so many times in the comics. I'm glad he finally got his due in plastic. Without a doubt, the coolest character from Across the Spider-Verse was Hobie Brown's Spider-Punk. He was brought to life by Danielle Kaluuya's effortless voice acting, but it was the animation that set this character apart. It took 3 years to create the technology to be able to animate Hobie's body at different frame rates, giving him that otherworldly look. And he truly is even cooler without his mask when you combine this Marvel Legends figure with a custom head sculpt from RDJ Customs. All that snarling punk rock energy comes out in this figure, from his boots to his belt to his leather jacket loaded with buttons, rivets, and spikes. No detail was spared, as even the paint app on his forearm, it looks like random graffiti, but on closer inspection, it hides a subtle web pattern. And while the original head that came with this figure was excellent, this custom takes it to the next level, making it one of the best Spider-Man figures of the year. The Spider-Man animated VHS 2-packs have been a hit with collectors. Lots of y'all love that black suit Spidey with the cell shading. I have heard over and over again that this Green Goblin is the best version ever. And who can argue with Doc Ock with bendy wire tentacles? But for me, it's the civilian characters, MJ, Aunt May, and of course, Peter Parker, that have been my favorites in the line. This Peter absolutely kills it. This isn't a teenage Pete, he's an actual adult. The facial sculpt and face print are the best in the line. It's like he stepped right out of my television. The color scheme is consistent with the look of the cartoon, muted in a 90s kind of way, but those rolled up sleeves still rock some 80s style as well. Overall, this is just a well executed figure from a sorely needed corner of the Spider-Man universe. If you're anything like me, which I know that you are, you absolutely lost your mind when you saw Tom Holland swinging around Rockefeller Center at the end of No Way Home. These brief glimpses led to hours of internet analysis of what appeared to be the very best Spidey suit ever seen on the silver screen. And now that we have it in hand, it's even better than I had hoped. When it comes to Spider-Man, I am for sure a traditionalist. I appreciate what they tried to do with Andrew's first suit, but let's get real. Steve Ditko nailed this design right from the get-go, and you can't improve upon perfection. This figure perfectly captures the bright red and especially the shiny metallic blue of the movie screen. Again, the frame is muscular but nimble, perfect for Holland's Peter Parker. The spider on the back of the costume is a nice nod to the Webhead cinematic history, but I am perhaps most impressed by the eyelet pieces on the mask. While I will always be partial to Ditko's interpretation, it was John Romita Sr. whose look for the web slinger took the character to new heights of popularity. And with the artist passing earlier this year, this figure makes a lasting tribute to his timeless and classic art style. It takes something truly special to top this list, and the Final Swing Spider-Man is exactly that. Which of your favorite Spideys did I leave out? And what are you looking forward to next year? Let me know in the comments. We are living in a golden age of Spider-Man action figures, and if you want to continue to get the very best coverage, subscribe to Carbon Scoring.